The Truman Show es un clásico innegable y fue uno de los primeros grandes pasos que dio Jim Carrey en el drama. No se olviden de ver King, que también pueden ver una entrevista que hice con dos de sus protagonistas, pero vamos a hablar de una película que creo que a más de uno lo dejó pensando si efectivamente no lo estaban espiando, no lo estaban grabando y no era parte de un reality show. Hablé nada más y nada menos que con Delate, el actor encargado de interpretar al papá de Truman, que me contó algunos secretos muy pero muy interesantes sobre cómo fue el rodaje de The Truman Show. Mirá.
We now return to Mira Akien and Contre with our latest interview.
It was fascinating because the director, Peter Weir, is one of the great directors of film that I've ever seen.
Good morning!
Good morning!
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
It was a big step for him to do that movie because he's known mostly for all the comedy. So that was a big step for him to do that particular film. And I think he handled it pretty well because he was anxious about it. But again, the director, Peter Weir, really he helped all of us, but he really helped Jim. And the other actor worth mentioning, of course, is Laura Linney, who is I think is fantastic. She's not just she's fantastic in that, but she's had a fantastic career as well.
How many cameras you got there in that town?
5,000.
I believe Truman is the first child to have been legally adopted by a corporation.
That's correct.
Brilliant.
Peter Weir and I discussed the fact that in the Truman Show, Jim's character of Truman, he kind of had two fathers. He had me, the father, sort of in his life, if you will, and then he had the ultimate father, which was the Ed Harris character. Dennis Hopper was supposed to play the role, and he started to, and then I don't know what happened. He had to leave, and then that's when they brought in Ed Harris.
Dad?
I mean, I worked on it for 4 months, and also they let me do my own stunts, which was a big deal because the stuff where my characters pretends to drown and everything. We rehearsed that in Florida. I worked with the stunt captain on that for a couple of weeks, so that when we came out here, myself and the 12-year-old, we were out in this boat in Florida where they shot the long shots, and then when we came here, they have it's called The Tank. It was a Paramount movie, but we did it at Universal. Has this thing called The Tank. It's a two-acre lake, and they shot Apollo 13 and a lot of movies there where they can control the storm effects. But it was dangerous, but I was prepared, and I had a stunt double if I needed one, because when I saw all the stuff going up, all the storm stuff going up, it frankly scared the hell out of me. But I had to get certified scuba dive, so when he would pull me under, when it was time for me to drown, he'd pull me under and he'd have a regulator to put on my mouth, and then we'd swim away to get out of camera range. And oh my God, we shot a million takes. It was really tricky.
Button Cam 3.
Interesting that you should mention that because it was so cold. It was in Florida, but it was on. Florida goes up what they call the Panhandle, so it goes up. We were up in the part of Florida that's underneath Alabama, and it was January, February, and it was unusually cold. So we had to hold chips of ice in our mouth before the camera would go on. Otherwise, all the vapor was coming out. So every take, we'd have a bunch of ice in our mouth. They'd say, "Action!" Spit the ice out and do the scene. The other thing about the fog was we shot some of the stuff already, and then this fog came in, and Peter Weir just decided to use it instead of because the AD was saying, well, maybe we should come back tomorrow night, and Peter Weir said, no, let's use it. So we used the fog, and he even put that into the script where I think Ed is up in the booth saying, a little less fog, a little more fog, or stuff. That wasn't in the script.
Go to him. Easy on the fog.
He wanted input as much as possible from us, from the actors. So there was a lot of the movie that I shot with, because there were 3 Trumans. There was Jim Carrey, there was a 12-year-old Truman, and then there was a 5 or 6-year-old Truman. And I had a bunch of scenes with the 12-year-old and the 5-year-old, but a lot of that got cut out of the movie.
Dad.
It was a very fun experience, and that work. I'm really proud of that work, because it was really it was exciting, and also, like I say, creative, because there were a couple times where Peter Weir, the director, we made up some lines that weren't in the script, where he said, well, what would you say here, and what would you say there? And I said, well, I'd say this, or maybe I wouldn't say anything, or he'd say, okay, let's do that, and so it was a really that was fun, that was exciting.
We accept the reality with which we're presented.
Everybody's pretending, Truman. Get out of here. Come and find me.
How was seeing all the impact this movie has in worldwide, because it's a classic movie, as I said.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting you should mention that, because this is going back about 10 or 15 years ago in New York. I knew somebody, she was a Buddhist, and she and her I don't know what to call it, the group of Buddhists that she was in a community with, they asked me to come and talk about the movie, because in Buddhism there's this whole thing about what is reality. And so I can't remember the details now, but we had this lengthy conversation, because they found it, they watched it a few times, and they were like, we think this is a really important movie because of how it deals with reality and all this other stuff. And I'm not explaining it very well, but it was interesting to talk to people who and of course it was a real forerunner to what would become reality television. And the guy who wrote it is from New Zealand. He wrote that. We shot that in '97, I think, and he wrote that like 5 years earlier. And also, he wanted it to take place in New York City. And when Peter Weir got involved as director, it became really clear with the producers and Peter that shooting in New York City would be almost impossible to create these realities, And so they found this town in Florida, seaside Florida, and they used that, and they just and then the interiors were shot in Panama City. It was about 20 minutes away, and then all the Ed Harris stuff was all shot out here, along with the stuff where Jim makes the escape in the boat, and where I drown and stuff like that. That was out here.
In case I don't see ya, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.